Hey guys, super excited to see what the Lord has in store. We continue through the book of Mark. Mark chapter 6 is where we're at today, and I see some really important truths as it relates to faith and people that we know in the past, and also just situations that we think we might not let go, but really the Lord might be working in a very unique way. Fact. So it should deal with Mark 6, and it says, "Then he went out from there and came to his own country, and his disciples followed him. And when the Sabbath had come, he began to teach in the synagogue. And many hearing him were astonished, saying, 'Where did this man get these things? And what wisdom is this which is given to him, that such mighty works are performed by his hands? Is this not the carpenter, the son of Mary, and brother of James and Joseph and Judas and Simon? And are not all his sisters here with us?' And so they were offended at him." So we can see now that Jesus, he goes back to Nazareth, and he's speaking amongst all of his brethren, basically in his countrymen, those who would have known and understood Jesus's family, those who were of age older, the older elders there in the synagogue probably would have understood and remembered the interesting scenarios surrounding his birth, the likelihood that maybe Jesus was illegitimate or out of wedlock. All those sorts of things would have swirled around this family, and just how they disappeared for a handful of years and all of a sudden reappeared with a child. All those things were hanging over his head as expectations of who he was. Not only that, they would have known Jesus as a carpenter, not as the savior of this world. They would have been experienced with his, the work of his hands in terms of building things, and they would have had conversations with him that would have been, on a fairly normal stream of going about business. So they knew Jesus from a very natural, man-based form. And then they also knew he had brothers and sisters, a son of, son of Mary. And there was a handful of brothers. We see 4 brothers and a handful of sisters that happened to be in the congregation that day. And they're like, this is just a normal guy, but who gave him this authority to speak like this? Who gave him the ability to proclaim the things that he has, or to potentially do the work of his hands? And here's what happened, right? Because they knew Jesus and they knew all the things about him in the past and whatnot. Not that they could have said anything bad about him, but they certainly couldn't have said that he was God. He certainly hadn't had any formal training, in the synagogue. He was just a normal carpenter. That they were amazed. And unfortunately, even though that they were amazed by the things that he was saying, this amazement actually probably turned into a bit more jealousy. They were offended by his words because they knew that he hadn't gone through the formal channels of how he should have gone to be in a position to have the kind of authority that he would have spoke with. And it's an unfortunate reality. But this is what happens when we have a bunch of preconceived notions and expectations about people, about how God works. Oftentimes that hinders and restricts our faith. And that's what happened in that day. Those in the synagogue, those in their city, they thought they knew everything already. Their past experiences with Jesus and his family were one thing, and now they're seeing something totally different. And so as a result, they have no capacity for any real faith to say, hey, wow, this man could truly be the one we've been looking for, the one we've been waiting for, the words that would cut straight to our heart. No, they wouldn't want to hear it. And he would make bold claims. We know even in his own city, they would take and want to stone him because of this offensive sort of speech that he would communicate to them. And so this is where I want to be really just encouraging to all of us, is that we have to be so careful not to take on any sort of preconceived expectations anytime we meet anybody. That frankly, the gospel can change anybody's life. even if they haven't, it hasn't for 50, 60, 70, 80 years, who knows? It can change it in an instant. As the hearts are prepared, the hearts are ready. So therefore, we need to make sure that we respond equally amongst all people, communicating and sharing the truth, that maybe just one more might be transformed by Jesus. We also have to be careful personally. Right? We can fall into traps where we just kind of know, well, this is how God works because this is how he's always worked in my life. No, get over that sort of thought and philosophy, because what does it do? It completely limits our capacity to have true faith in the Lord. No, he has a plan and a purpose, and he's working it in a very unique and special way all the time and in all cases. And we can see in this scenario, they basically kicked Jesus out of town because of their lack of belief of who he could have been. We don't want to be kicking the Lord out of town, so to speak, because we just don't think he's going to work in that way in our life or in the life of somebody else. And it also shows you how and why so many people don't come to the faith, is because they just think, well, this is not how God works. And that's because perhaps preconceived experience, notions of how church is, people are, whatever it might be. But the thing is, let's just get straight down to it. We got to look at Jesus for who he is, every person for who they are, and God's going to do a mighty work. We just have to get out of the way and be used as a tool so that God might use us rather than in spite of us for his good purpose and glory. Love you guys. God bless you. Be encouraged and strengthened in the Lord. And we will see you tomorrow morning.